The great dragon emperor Kazethmer had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. His golden scales shined brighter than any star, and his voice could shake entire planets. Every living being in 3 star systems bowed before him. He was the most powerful creature anyone had ever seen, but today, the mighty emperor was afraid. He stood in the royal nursery, looking down at 3 tiny creatures that were barely the size of house cats. These were his children, his precious babies, and they were dying. Their small bodies lay still on soft silk cushions. Their tiny scales, which should have been bright and colorful, looked dull and gray. Their breathing was so weak that he had to lean close just to see their little chests moving up and down. 2 weeks ago, everything had been perfect. His beloved wife, Empress Salandra, had finally laid 3 eggs after waiting for 1,000 years. The entire empire had celebrated for days. Dragons from every planet had come to see the miracle. It was the happiest day of Kazethmer's very long life, but happiness did not last long. During the hatching ceremony, something went terribly wrong. Salandra became very sick. The doctors tried everything they could, but she died just hours after watching her babies break free from their shells. The emperor's joy turned to deep sadness in a single day. Now his children were following their mother to death, and no one could stop it. The royal doctors stood around the nursery, shaking their heads. They had tried every medicine, every treatment, every ancient cure they knew. Nothing worked. The baby dragons would not eat, they would not drink. They just lay there, getting weaker and weaker each day. "Your Majesty," said the head doctor, a wise old dragon named Veltar, "we have done everything possible. The babies refuse all food. Without their mother's care in the first days, they cannot survive. It is the way of our people." Emperor Kazethmer felt his heart breaking. His huge claws, which could crush mountains, trembled as he reached out to touch his smallest child. The baby dragon did not even move when his father's claw brushed against its tiny head. "There must be something," the emperor whispered. His voice, which usually boomed like thunder, was now as quiet as a gentle breeze. "They are my children. They are the future of our empire. There has to be a way." The doctors looked at each other sadly. They had been trying for 2 weeks. Every day the babies grew weaker. Every day hope grew smaller. Lord Commander Thexenor, the emperor's chief advisor, stepped forward. He was a proud dragon with dark red scales and cold yellow eyes. "Your Majesty," he said in his formal voice, "perhaps it is time to accept that this is the will of the universe. Not all hatchlings are meant to survive." The emperor's eyes flashed with anger. Fire came out of his nose, and the temperature in the room rose quickly. "These are not just any hatchlings," he roared. "These are imperial heirs. They are my children. I will not give up on them." But as the days passed, even the emperor began to lose hope. The babies had not eaten anything for 5 days. They barely moved. Their breathing was so shallow that sometimes it stopped completely for several seconds before starting again. On the 16th day, something unusual happened. The human ambassador requested a meeting with the emperor. This was strange because humans were considered one of the least important species in the galaxy. They had only recently learned to travel between stars, and their technology was very basic compared to dragon science. The human ambassador was a middle-aged man named Carl Johnson. He was short and had gray hair, nothing impressive to look at. When he entered the throne room, he seemed very small next to the giant dragon emperor. "Your Majesty," Carl said, bowing deeply, "I have heard about your children. I am very sorry for your loss and your current troubles." The emperor looked down at the tiny human. "Thank you for your words, Ambassador Johnson. But I do not think there is anything your people can do to help. My own doctors, the finest in the galaxy, have failed." Carl nodded respectfully. "That may be true, Your Majesty. But sometimes a different approach can work when traditional methods fail. My people have experience with caring for young creatures, including some alien species." Several dragons in the court laughed. The idea that primitive humans could help where advanced dragon science had failed seemed ridiculous, but Carl continued speaking. "There is a woman named Lisa Martinez. She works on the frontier colonies, caring for children of many different species. She has saved young creatures that others thought were beyond help. Perhaps she could try with your children." Lord Commander Thexenar stepped forward, his scales bristling with anger. "Your Majesty, this is insulting. To suggest that a human could succeed where our greatest minds have failed is beyond belief. We cannot trust the future of our empire to some primitive alien." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Carl, then at his advisor, then at the door that led to the nursery where his children lay dying. "What makes you think this human female could help?" the Emperor asked. Carl chose his words carefully. "She has a gift for understanding what young creatures need. She does not just follow medical rules. She listens to the babies themselves. She has worked with species that other caretakers gave up on." "But she is human," said another court dragon. "What could she possibly know about caring for imperial dragon heirs?" "Maybe that is exactly why she might succeed," Carl said quietly. "Sometimes an outsider can see things that those too close to the situation cannot see." The Emperor thought. About this, his children were dying. The best doctors in the galaxy had failed. Traditional methods had not worked. What did he have to lose? "Tell me more about this Lisa Martinez," he said. Carl felt a small spark of hope. "She is a single mother who has raised both human and alien children. She has worked in refugee camps, frontier settlements, and research stations. She has dealt with species that no one else understood. Most importantly, she truly cares about every child she helps." "But can she be trusted?" asked the Emperor. "These are not just any children. They are the future rulers of our empire." "Your Majesty," Carl said with complete honesty, "I believe she would die before letting any child under her care come to harm. That is who she is." The Emperor was quiet for several minutes. The whole court waited in silence. Finally, he spoke. "Bring her here," he said. "Let this human try what my people cannot do. If she fails, we lose nothing more than we have already lost. If she succeeds—" He did not finish the sentence, but everyone understood. If a human could save the imperial heirs when dragon science had failed, it would change everything. Lord Commander Thexenar bowed stiffly. "Your Majesty, I must protest this decision. It is not wise to trust outsiders with matters of such importance." The Emperor looked at his advisor with tired eyes. "My friend, wisdom has not saved my children. Perhaps it is time to try something else." Carl bowed deeply. "I will contact Lisa Martinez immediately, Your Majesty. She can be here in 3 days." As the human ambassador left to make arrangements, the Emperor returned to the nursery. His 3 children lay as still as before. He knelt beside them, his massive form filling the room. "Hold on, my little ones," he whispered. "Help is coming. A human is coming to care for you. I know it sounds strange, but she may be your only hope." The smallest baby dragon opened one tiny eye for just a moment, as if it had heard its father's words. Then it closed the eye again and returned to its deep, troubling sleep. The Emperor stayed in the nursery all night, watching over his children, and praying to whatever gods might listen that a human stranger could accomplish what his entire empire could not. Lisa Martinez stepped off the small transport ship and looked up at the enormous dragon palace. The building was made of gold and silver, reaching high into the purple sky. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen, but she did not have time to admire it. 3 baby dragons were dying, and she was here to help them. She was a small woman with brown hair and kind eyes. Her clothes were simple and practical. She carried only one bag with her supplies. The dragon guards who met her at the landing pad were confused. They had expected someone more impressive, not this ordinary human woman. "Are you the specialist?" asked Captain Mordix, the head of palace security. His voice showed his doubt. "I am Lisa Martinez," she said calmly. "I am here to help the Emperor's children." The captain looked her up and down. She was so small that she barely reached his knee. "Follow me," he said, still not believing that this tiny human could help where the greatest dragon doctors had failed. They walked through long hallways filled with amazing art and treasure. Lisa did not look at any of it. Her mind was focused on the babies she had come to help. She had read everything about dragon biology during her 3-day journey, but she knew that books could not tell her everything she needed to know when they reached the nursery. Lisa saw Emperor Kazethmer for the first time. He was massive, with golden scales that caught the light like precious jewels. His eyes were ancient and sad. When he saw her, he looked surprised. "You are smaller than I expected," he said in his deep voice. "Size does not matter when caring for babies, Your Majesty," Lisa replied respectfully. "May I see them?" The Emperor stepped aside, and Lisa walked to the 3 small beds where the baby dragons lay. Her heart broke when she saw them. They were so tiny and weak. Their scales were dull, their breathing shallow. They looked like they were already half in the spirit world, but Lisa had seen sick babies before. She had helped many creatures that others had given up on. She knew that sometimes the smallest spark of life could grow into a bright flame if given the right care. "How long since they last ate?" she asked. 6 days, said Dr. Veltar, the head physician. "We have tried everything. They refuse all food, even the finest meats and the most nutritious broths." Lisa knelt beside the smallest baby. Very gently, she placed her hand on its tiny chest. The baby dragon was so small that her hand covered most of its body. She could feel its heart beating, very fast and very weak. "They are not just hungry," she said quietly. "They are heartbroken." The dragons in the room looked at each other. Heartbroken? What did that mean for babies so young? Lisa continued to examine the babies, touching them gently, looking into their eyes, listening to their breathing. After several minutes, she stood up and faced the Emperor. "Your Majesty, with respect, I think everyone has been approaching this." "Wrong," Lord Commander Thexoner stepped forward angrily. "How dare you suggest that our finest doctors are wrong?" Lisa did not back down. "I'm not saying they are bad doctors. I'm saying they are treating the wrong problem. These babies are not sick in their bodies. They are sick in their hearts." "Explain," said the Emperor. Lisa looked at the 3 tiny dragons. "In nature, dragon babies stay very close to their mothers for the first months of life. They need constant warmth, constant touch, constant attention. Your doctors have been trying to feed them like adult dragons, but they are still babies who need a mother's care." "But their mother is dead," said Dr. Veltar. "We cannot bring her back." "No," Lisa said gently, "but we can give them what a mother would give them: love, warmth, and constant attention." The court dragons looked shocked. "Love from a human? I would like to try a different approach," Lisa continued. "I need to stay with them day and night. I need to hold them, talk to them, make them feel safe. Only then will they want to eat again." Emperor Kazethmer was quiet for a long moment. "You want to take over their care completely?" "For now, yes. I promise I will be very careful with them, but they need to bond with someone who can give them the love they are missing." Lord Commander Thexoner was outraged. "Your Majesty, this is madness. She wants to treat imperial heirs like common pets." But the Emperor was looking at his children, so still and weak. "What exactly would you do?" Lisa knelt beside the babies again. "First, I would move them to a warmer, more comfortable place. Then I would hold them against my body so they can feel my heartbeat. I would talk to them, sing to them, let them know they are not alone. When they feel safe and loved, they will start to eat again." "This is ridiculous," muttered one of the court doctors. "Dragon babies do not need songs and cuddles." "With respect?" "Sir," Lisa said, "how do you know? Has anyone ever tried it?" The Emperor made his decision. "Dr. Veltar, prepare a new room for Lisa and the babies. Give her whatever she needs." "Your Majesty, I must protest," said Lord Commander Thexoner. "This human has no understanding of dragon nature. She will make them weak and dependent." "They are already dying," the Emperor said firmly. "If her way fails, we lose nothing more." "Then we have already lost." Within an hour, Lisa had moved the baby dragons to a smaller, warmer room. She had soft blankets brought in and arranged comfortable cushions. She dimmed the lights and played soft music. The room felt cozy and safe. Very different from the cold, sterile nursery. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She picked up the smallest baby dragon and held it against her chest, like a human mother would hold her child. "What are you doing?" asked Dr. Veltar in alarm. "Giving him the warmth and comfort he needs," Lisa said softly. She began to rock gently, humming a quiet lullaby. The baby dragon, who had not moved in days, suddenly made a small sound. It was barely a whisper, but it was the first sound any of the babies had made in a week. Lisa smiled. "Hello, little one. I am here to take care of you." She continued to hold the baby, talking to it in a gentle voice. Slowly, she picked up the second baby with her other arm. It was difficult to hold both, but she managed. The third baby was too weak to move, so she placed it on her lap. For the first time in weeks, all three baby dragons were touching someone who cared about them. Lisa's body heat warmed them. Her heartbeat gave them comfort. Her voice let them know they were not alone. The dragons watching were amazed. Within minutes, the babies seemed more alert. Their breathing improved. One of them even opened its eyes and looked at Lisa. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Veltar. "How is this possible?" Lisa smiled at the baby dragon, looking at her. "All babies need love," she said simply. "It does not matter what species they are." She spent the entire day holding the babies, talking to them, singing to them. She told them stories about Earth, about human children, about the stars. She did not know if they understood her words, but she believed they understood her care. As evening came, Lisa prepared their first meal. Instead of the rich foods the doctors had tried, she made a simple, warm broth. She made it the same temperature as a mother's milk would be. Then she did something that made all the watching dragons gasp. She tasted the food first, then gently put some in her mouth and fed it to the smallest baby mouth to mouth. The way bird parents feed their young, the baby dragon, who had refused food for a week, swallowed the broth. "He ate," whispered the Emperor, hardly believing what he saw. He actually ate. Lisa fed all three babies this way, patiently and lovingly. They ate more than they had in days. When they were finished, she held them close again, singing softly until they fell asleep. For the first time in weeks, the baby dragons slept peacefully. Their breathing was stronger. Their color was better. They were still very weak, but they were no longer dying. The Emperor watched Lisa care for his children with wonder. This small human woman had accomplished in one day what his entire empire had failed to do in weeks. She had given his babies something that all the medicine and technology in the galaxy could not provide. She had given them love. 3 weeks had passed since Lisa Martinez came to the Dragon Palace. The baby dragons were no longer dying. They were growing stronger every day, eating well, and becoming more active. Their scales had regained their bright colors and their eyes were full of life, but this success was causing problems in the imperial court. Emperor Kazethmer watched his children playing in their nursery room. The sight should have filled him with joy, but instead he felt worried. His advisors had been coming to him every day with complaints about the human woman and her methods. The baby dragons were indeed healthy and happy, but they were not behaving like proper imperial heirs. They followed Lisa everywhere, making soft chirping sounds when she spoke to them. They slept curled up against her at night. Most shocking of all, they were trying to copy her behavior. The oldest baby, whom Lisa had named Danny, was attempting to walk on his back legs like a human instead of on all 4 legs like a dragon. The middle child, called Rosie by Lisa, was trying to use her front claws like human hands to pick up objects. The youngest, little Pete, was making sounds that seemed more like human words than dragon speech. "Your Majesty," said Lord Commander Thexoner as he entered the throne room. "We must discuss the situation with the human female," the Emperor sighed. He had been expecting this conversation. "What is your concern, old friend?" "She is ruining them," Thexoner said bluntly. "They are not learning to be dragons. They are learning to be humans. This cannot continue." But they are alive," the Emperor pointed out. "They are healthy and growing. Surely that is what matters most." "Is it?" Thexoner asked. "What good are healthy heirs if they cannot rule?" "How can they lead our people if they act like aliens?" Other court members began to gather, drawn by the raised voices. Dr. Veltar, the head physician, stepped forward. Your Majesty, I must agree with Lord Commander Thexoner. The babies are physically healthy, yes, but their behavior is very concerning. They refuse to eat unless the human feeds them. They will not sleep unless she is present. They are completely dependent on her. Dependence is normal in young children, the Emperor said, but his voice showed his own growing worry. Not this kind of dependence, said Lady Vexara, the court's education minister. I brought traditional dragon nursemaids to begin their proper training. The babies became upset and refused to cooperate. They only want the human. The Emperor had seen this himself. When other dragons tried to care for his children, they became distressed and cried for Lisa. It was as if they had forgotten they were dragons at all. There is worse news, Dexoner continued. The babies are not developing proper dragon instincts. They show no interest in hunting games or dominance exercises. Instead, they want to play gentle human games. They are becoming soft and weak. They are still very young, the Emperor said, but doubt was creeping into his voice. At their age, dragon babies should be showing signs of their natural power, Dr. Veltar explained. They should be breathing small flames, showing territorial behavior, establishing pecking order among themselves. Instead, they share everything peacefully and try to comfort each other when one is upset. This is not dragon nature. The Emperor thought about this. His children were indeed different from other dragon babies he had known. They were gentle and loving, but was that a weakness or a strength? What do you suggest? He asked. Remove the human, Dexoner said immediately. Bring in proper dragon caretakers. Let the babies learn to be dragons before it is too late. But they nearly died without her, the Emperor reminded them. What if removing her causes them to become sick again? Then we must be prepared to manage that, Dr. Veltar said. Better to risk their health and guarantee their failure as future leaders. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. He loved his children more than anything, but he also had duties to his empire. His heirs needed to be strong dragons who could rule with wisdom and power. If Lisa's care was making them weak, then perhaps his advisors were right. I will think about this, he said finally, but Lord Commander Thexar had already made his own decision. He believed the Emperor was too emotionally attached to make the right choice. That night, he secretly arranged for Lisa to be transferred. Away from the palace, he told the Emperor that Lisa was needed for an urgent diplomatic mission on a distant world. The Emperor, trusting his old friend, agreed to the temporary assignment. He thought Lisa would be gone for just a few days. It will be good for the babies to spend some time with dragon caretakers, Vexoner said. They need to learn that they cannot always depend on the human. Lisa was confused when she was told about the sudden mission. She had not been informed of any diplomatic work, but she was a guest in the Dragon Empire, and she had to obey their orders before leaving. She spent extra time with the baby dragons. She could sense something was wrong, but she did not know what. The babies seemed to sense it too. They were more clingy than usual, not wanting to let her go. I will be back soon, she promised them, holding all three close. Be good while I am away. Nanny, the oldest, made a sound that was almost like the human word no. Rosie wrapped her tiny claws around Lisa's finger and would not let go. Little Pete began to cry, a sound that broke Lisa's heart. They will be fine, Dr. Veltar assured her. We have prepared excellent dragon nursemaids to care for them. Lisa was not convinced, but she had no choice. She kissed each baby goodbye and left for the transport ship. Within hours of her departure, the problems began. The baby dragons refused to eat the food prepared by the dragon nursemaids. They cried constantly, calling for Lisa in their mix of dragon chirps and human-like sounds. They would not sleep, huddling together in the corner of their room. By the second day, they had stopped eating entirely. By the third day, they were becoming weak again. The same terrible pattern that had nearly killed them before was starting again. Emperor Kazethmar was deeply alarmed. He had not realized how completely his children had bonded with Lisa. Without her, they were not just unhappy, they were grieving. Where exactly is Lisa? he demanded of Lord Commander Thexenor. She is on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim, Thexenor replied. She should return in a few days. A few days? The Emperor roared. My children are dying again, and you sent her to the Outer Rim? Only then did Thexenor admit what he had done. Your Majesty, I believed it was necessary. The babies needed to learn independence from the human. The Emperor's rage was terrible to see. Fire erupted from his mouth, and his roar shook the entire palace. You tricked me. You lied to me about my children's caretaker. I did what I thought was best for the Empire, Thexenor said, but his voice was shaking. You nearly killed my children. Because of your prejudice against humans, the Emperor snarled. How long will it take to bring Lisa back? The Outer Rim is very far, Your Majesty. Even at top speed, it would take 6 days to reach her and 6 days to return. The Emperor looked at his advisor with fury and disappointment. 12 days. My children may not survive 12 days. He made a decision that shocked everyone in the court. Prepare my personal ship. I will go to bring Lisa back myself. Your Majesty, you cannot leave the throne, several advisors protested. It is unprecedented. My children are more important than precedent, the Emperor declared. I will not lose them because of someone else's foolish prejudice. As the Emperor prepared to leave his throne for the first time in centuries, his 3 baby dragons lay in their nursery, growing weaker by the hour. They had stopped calling for Lisa, not because they had forgotten her, but because they were too weak to make any sound at all. The dragon nursemaids stood around helplessly, watching the imperial heirs fade away. All their training, all their knowledge of dragon care, was useless against the simple fact that these babies needed their human mother, and Lisa, unaware of the crisis, was working at a refugee camp on the edge of the galaxy, wondering why she felt so worried about 3 little dragons she had left behind. Emperor Kazethmer had never left his throne world before. For over 1,000 years he had ruled his empire from the Golden Palace, receiving visitors and sending orders across the galaxy. But now he was flying through space in his personal ship, racing toward the Outer Rim to find one human woman. His massive form barely fit in the ship's control room. His claws left marks on the metal controls as he urged the ship to go faster. Behind him, his most trusted pilot worked frantically to squeeze every bit of speed from the engines. How much longer? The Emperor demanded. 3 more days, Your Majesty, the pilot replied. We are already pushing the engines beyond their limits, the Emperor growled in frustration. 3 days felt like 3 years when his children were dying. He had been receiving reports from the palace every few hours, and each one was worse than the last. The baby dragons had not eaten anything for 4 days. They had stopped moving, stopped making sounds, stopped responding to anything around them. Dr. Veltar's latest message had been particularly frightening. The babies were so weak that their heartbeats were barely detectable. Can we contact the human woman? The Emperor asked. I have been trying, Your Majesty, said the communications officer. But she is at a refugee camp with very limited technology. Our messages are not getting through. Meanwhile, on the distant world of Kepler 7, Lisa Martinez was working in a crowded medical tent. The refugee camp housed thousands of beings from dozens of different species, all fleeing from a war in a nearby star system. Lisa had been assigned to help care for the children, and she had been working nonstop since her arrival. But even as she helped the young refugees, her mind kept returning to 3 little dragons back at the palace. Something felt wrong. She had a mother's instinct that told her the babies needed her, but she had no way to contact them. The communication equipment at the camp was broken, and there were no ships available to take her back. Lisa, we need you in Tent 4, called Dr. Morgan, the camp's chief medical officer. We have some sick children who won't eat. Lisa hurried to the tent and found 6 young aliens huddled together, all from different species. They had been traumatized by the war and were too scared to eat or sleep. As Lisa knelt beside them, she felt a familiar pain in her heart. These children needed the same thing the dragon babies had needed, love and comfort. She began to work with the refugee children, holding them, talking to them, singing gentle songs. Slowly, they began to trust her. Within hours, they were eating. Again, other workers watched in amazement as Lisa somehow reached children that no one else could help. "How do you do it?" asked Dr. Morgan. "All children need the same things," Lisa replied simply. "They need to feel safe and loved. Species doesn't matter." But even as she helped the refugee children, Lisa's worry about the dragon babies grew stronger. She tried again and again to send a message to the palace, but the communication equipment remained broken. Back at the Dragon Palace, the situation was becoming desperate. The 3 baby dragons lay motionless in their nursery, their breathing so shallow that it was almost impossible to see. The dragon nursemaids stood around helplessly, knowing that everything they tried only made things worse. Dr. Veltar checked their vital signs for the 100th time that day. "Their condition is critical," he told Lord Commander Exener. "If they do not eat soon, we will lose them." Exener felt the weight of his decision crushing down on him. He had thought he was protecting the Empire's future, but instead he might have destroyed it. "Can we force them to eat?" "We have tried everything," Dr. Veltar said sadly. "They will not accept food from anyone. They keep making soft sounds." That sounded like the human's name. Indeed, the babies occasionally whispered sounds that were almost like Lisa in their weak little voices. It was heartbreaking to hear. The news from across the Empire was also troubling. Word had spread that the Emperor had left his throne to chase after a human woman. Some dragon lords saw this as a sign of weakness. There were rumors of rebellion, whispers that perhaps it was time for a new emperor. Admiral Corthoval, commander of the Imperial fleet, came to the palace with disturbing news. "Lord Commander, we are receiving reports of unrest in the outer systems. Some governors are questioning the Emperor's fitness to rule." "What do you mean?" Exener asked, though he feared he already knew. "They say an emperor who abandons his throne for a human is not strong enough to lead dragons," Admiral Corthoval explained. "Lord Vexler of the Second System has declared that he will not recognize the Emperor's authority until he returns and proves his strength." Exener felt sick. His plan to remove the human had not only put the babies in danger, it had weakened the entire Empire. "What should we do?" "We must contact His Majesty immediately," Admiral Corthoval said. "He needs to return before this rebellion spreads." But when they tried to contact the Emperor's ship, they received troubling news. The ship had encountered a dangerous asteroid field and was forced to take a longer route. The journey would now take 5 days instead of 3, 5 more days. The babies would not survive 5 more days. At the refugee camp, Lisa's feeling of dread had become almost unbearable. She tried to focus on her work, but she kept thinking about Danny, Rosie, and little Pete. Finally, she could not stand it anymore. She found Dr. Morgan and told him about her situation. "I have to get back to them," she said. "Something is very wrong. I can feel it." Dr. Morgan looked at her with sympathy. "Lisa, there are no ships leaving here for weeks. You are needed here too. These refugee children depend on you." "But those dragon babies need me more," Lisa said desperately. "They are just babies and they bonded with me. Without their real mother, I am all they have." Dr. Morgan was quiet for a moment, then he spoke carefully. "There is one possibility. A smuggler named Jake comes through here sometimes. He has a fast ship, but he charges a lot of money and his trips are dangerous." "When will he be here next?" Lisa asked immediately. "Actually, he arrived this morning, but Lisa, his ship is not safe. He flies through dangerous space, avoiding patrol routes." "You could be killed." Lisa did not hesitate. "Where can I find him?" Hour later, Lisa was talking to Jake, a rough-looking human with scars on his face and suspicious eyes. His ship was small and looked like it might fall apart at any moment. "You want to go to the dragon capital?" Jake asked. "Lady, that's the most heavily guarded system in the galaxy. My ship won't be welcome there." "I have to get there," Lisa said. 3 babies are dying, and I am the only one who can help them." Jake looked at her strangely. "Dragon babies? Why would dragons want help from a human?" Lisa told him the whole story. When she finished, Jake was quiet for a long time. "My fee," Is everything you have? He said finally. I don't have much money, Lisa admitted. I don't want money, Jake said. I had a baby once. Lost him to a disease that the doctors couldn't cure. If you can save someone else's babies, then I'll help you. Within an hour, Lisa was aboard Jake's ship, flying through dangerous space toward the Dragon capital. The ship shook and rattled, and several times they had to hide from patrol ships. That would have arrested them, but Lisa did not care about the danger. All she could think about was 3 little dragons who needed their human mother to come home. Hold on, my babies, she whispered as the ship jumped through hyperspace. Mama is coming. Lisa's ship arrived at the Dragon capital just as the palace doctors were preparing for the worst. The baby dragons had not moved for 12 hours. Their breathing was so weak that Dr. Veltar could barely detect it. The entire palace was filled with sadness as everyone prepared to say goodbye to the imperial heirs. Jake's old smuggler ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. Palace security surrounded them immediately, but Lisa did not care about the weapons pointed at them. She could only think about getting to the babies. This is an illegal ship in restricted space, came the radio warning. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Lisa grabbed the radio. This is Lisa Martinez. I am here to help the Emperor's children. Please let me through. There was a moment of silence. Then Lord Commander Thexanar's voice came through the speaker. Lisa, how did you get here? That doesn't matter, Lisa said urgently. How are the babies? The silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. Guide us to the palace landing pad, she ordered. Now. 20 minutes later, Lisa was running through the palace halls. Jake followed behind her, amazed by the beauty of the dragon architecture, but mostly worried about his new friend. Palace guards led them quickly through corridors that Lisa remembered. From weeks before, when they reached the nursery, Lisa's heart broke. The 3 baby dragons lay completely still on their soft beds. Their scales were dull gray, almost colorless. They looked like tiny statues instead of living creatures. Dr. Veltar looked up as Lisa entered. You are too late, he said sadly. They stopped responding hours ago. I do not think they can hear us anymore, but Lisa was already moving. She knelt beside little Pete, the smallest baby, and gently lifted him. His tiny body was cold and felt weightless in her arms. Pete, sweetie, Mama is here, she whispered, holding him against her chest. Nothing happened for several seconds. The doctors watched sadly, thinking it was already too late. Then, like a miracle, Pete's tiny eye opened. Just a little bit, but enough to see Lisa's face. He made the smallest sound, barely a whisper, but it was clearly an attempt to say her name. That's right, baby. I'm here now, Lisa said, tears streaming down her face. She quickly reached for Rosie and Danny, gathering all 3 babies in her arms. As soon as the 3 babies felt Lisa's warmth and heard her voice, something amazing happened. Color began to return to their scales. Their breathing became stronger. Danny lifted his little head and nuzzled against Lisa's neck. Impossible, breathed Dr. Veltar. They were nearly dead. They were not sick, Lisa said softly, rocking the babies gently. They were grieving. They thought I had left them forever. Within an hour, all 3 babies were eating again. Lisa fed them the same way she had before, with infinite patience and love. They ate more food than they had consumed in the entire week she had been gone. Jake watched from the corner, amazed. I have never seen anything like this, he said quietly. Emperor. Kazethmer arrived just as Lisa was putting the babies down for a nap. His massive form filled the doorway as he saw his children, healthy and active again, playing gently with small toys while Lisa watched over them. My children, he said, his voice full of emotion. Daddy. Danny chirped, using a word Lisa had taught him. All 3 babies rushed toward their father on unsteady legs. The Emperor knelt down so his children could reach him. They climbed on his golden scales, chirping happily and showing him the toys Lisa had given them. For the first time in weeks, Emperor Kazethmer smiled. Lisa, he said, looking at the small human woman who had saved his family twice now. Thank you. They are good babies, Lisa said simply. They just needed to know they were loved. Lord Commander Thexener entered the room, his head hanging in shame. Your Majesty, I must confess my actions. I deceived you about Lisa's mission. I arranged for her removal because I thought she was making the babies weak. The Emperor's eyes flashed with anger, but then he looked at his children playing happily around Lisa. You nearly killed them with your prejudice, old friend. I know, Thexener said quietly. I was wrong about everything. Over the following days, Emperor Kazethmer spent many hours watching Lisa care for his children. He began to understand something that changed his entire view of the universe. Lisa did not just feed the babies or keep them clean. She taught them things that dragon culture had never valued. She showed them how to be kind to each other, how to share their toys, how to comfort each other when one was upset. She taught them to be curious about the world, to ask questions, to try new things without fear. Most importantly, she taught them that being strong did not mean being alone. The babies learned that helping others made them stronger, not weaker. She is teaching them to be leaders, the Emperor realized one day as he watched Danny help little Pete reach a toy that was too high for him. Dr. Veltar, who had also been watching Lisa's methods, nodded in agreement. Traditional dragon education focuses on individual strength and dominance, but Lisa is teaching them cooperation and empathy. They are learning to care about others. Is that not weakness? Asked Admiral Korthovel, who had come to report on the rebellions in the outer systems. Look at them, the Emperor said, pointing to his children. They are healthier, smarter, and happier than any dragon babies in our history. How can that be weakness? The Emperor made a decision that shocked the entire empire. He called for representatives from every world in his domain to come to the palace. When they arrived, he made an announcement that changed everything. I have learned something important, he told the assembled lords and governors. We have always believed that our way was the only way. We thought other species were inferior because they were different from us. But this human woman has shown us that there is wisdom in kindness, strength in caring for others. Some of the dragon lords were angry. Your Majesty, you cannot be serious. We are dragons. We are the masters of the galaxy, and we will continue to be, the Emperor said firmly. But we will be better masters. We will learn from other species instead of ignoring them. We will value wisdom wherever we find it. He looked at Lisa, who was sitting quietly in the corner with his children. I hereby grant Lisa Martinez the title of First Mother of the Imperial Family. She will be responsible for raising all future dragon heirs, and her methods will become the standard for child care throughout our empire. The changes that followed were remarkable. The Martinez protocols, as they came to be known, were implemented on every dragon world. Dragon children began learning empathy and cooperation alongside traditional skills. They learned to value all species, not just their own. The 3 baby dragons grew up to be unlike any rulers in dragon history. And they were strong and wise like their father, but they were also kind and caring like their human mother. When they eventually became leaders, they brought peace to parts of the galaxy that had been at war for centuries. Lisa Martinez became the most honored human in galactic history. But she remained humble, continuing to care for children of all species who needed help. Years later, when asked about her time with the dragons, Lisa would always say the same thing. Love is the same in every language. Children are children, no matter where they come from. They all need someone to care about them. Emperor Kazethmer kept a human saying on his throne room wall, written in Lisa's handwriting, "The strength to care for others is the greatest strength of all." And in the nursery where 3 baby dragons had once been dying, new dragon children learned to grow up with human wisdom, becoming the bridge between species that would unite the galaxy in peace. The Emperor had learned that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from power or fear, but from the simple act of loving someone else completely. It was a lesson that changed not just his family but his entire empire forever.